Welcome in, grab a seat, let's begin. It's Teaching Tuesday where the magic's within. Unlock the words, let the stories unfold. In a world of letters, watch the wonders take hold. Come on in, let's learn and grow. Build the future word by word, row by row. Together we'll read, together we'll rise. On Teaching Tuesdays, we'll open our eyes. Every sound, every line brings us closer to turning our learners into super prosers. Phonics and fun, on a journey we'll lead. With every Tuesday, we plant another seed. Come on in, let's learn and grow. Build the future word by word, row by row. Together we'll read, together we'll rise. On Teaching Tuesdays, we'll open our eyes. Step by step, we'll find our way. Through every challenge, come what may. In our group, you're never alone. Together we'll turn this skill into a stone. Come on in, let's learn and grow. Let's learn and grow. Build the future word by word, row by row, row by row. Together we'll read, together we'll read, together we'll rise, together we'll rise. Teaching Tuesdays, the sky is the prize.
Good evening, everyone. I am so excited to have you here with me for another episode of Teaching Tuesdays. My name is Katina Taylor, and you should be joining me live inside our private Facebook group, Literacy the Dreams Way, as well as on YouTube. Each and every Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, we are here for you. This is episode 60. Can y'all say that? I wish I had a sound maker. Yay! Episode 60. 60 weeks we have been coming to you live or pre-recorded to ensure that you are empowered with the skills you need to support your children in becoming confident and competent readers. Tonight, we are diving into spelling and orthographic mapping. Don't fear. Don't go, oh my God, what is that, Katina? I've never heard of that. We will get into it and you will walk away with a clear understanding of that. All right. So in terms of spelling, in terms of orthographic mapping, again, you're like, what does that mean? We will tell you. And most importantly, we're going to tell you why these two powerful concepts are key to helping your adolescent literacy learner become a confident and competent reader and writer. So again, welcome. My name is Katina Taylor. I'm so excited that you have joined me, and I'm going to make that a little bigger so you can see. I'm going to make it bigger for me too, because one thing I do not have on tonight are my helpers. Okay, so I need to make sure that you can see me, that you can see the screen, and that I can see it as well. If this is your first time joining us for Teaching Tuesdays, again, welcome. I am so excited to have you here. My name is Katina Taylor. I am the founder and CEO of Dreams KC, an education nonprofit focused on empowering parents with the tools they need so that they can teach their children foundational literacy skills. I have been in the education space for 25 years. I've spent 15 of those years teaching inside the four walls of classrooms, middle school, first grade, and high school. Right? So I am very passionate. And that's why I founded Dreams KC, to make sure that every family knows how to support their child's literacy journey, especially in our urban communities, right? So that is who I am. That's what I do. And I'm so excited to be with you this evening. Again, this is Teaching Tuesdays. We are live here every Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. You can find us on YouTube at Literacy is Liberation, or in our private Facebook group, Literacy the Dreams Way. We are on all social media platforms, so you can find us there as well. But again, our goal is to eradicate literacy, and we stand on that, and we follow the mantra of Frederick Douglass, who said, "Once you learn to read, you are forever free." So that's the work, you all. Now, I will tell you that the iceberg principle is real, it's relevant, it is here. And let me explain what I mean by the iceberg principle, right? Literacy is a lot like an iceberg, okay? What you come and get from me on Tuesdays for Teaching Tuesday is what's on the surface. And when it comes to an iceberg, what you see above the water, above the surface, is only about 15 to 20% of that actual iceberg. But if you join me for our parent literacy trainings in the community, at your school, then you get the whole kit and caboodle, so to speak, right? And that means that you are learning everything you need to take home, implement, and watch your child, your children get over any challenges, any barriers. And if they're just starting out on their literacy journey, you're going to give them an excellent start to becoming a confident and competent readers. So when you hear me talk about the iceberg principle, yes, you come on Teaching Tuesdays, you're going to get some strategies, some tools that you can implement immediately, take action immediately with your children. But it's not until you actually engage with me, Dreams Casing, where you will see them grow by leaps and bounds. So I just want to make that really clear. Tonight, we're going to dive a little bit beneath the surface to understand the thinking skills and the strategies that help older students, our adolescent literacy learners, succeed with reading and writing. All right. So some of you may ask me, and I've explained it before, but I thought, let me make a slide this time, right? What is an adolescent literacy learner? Bottom line, it is any student fourth grade or above. Fourth through 12th grade is an adolescent literacy learner. I know when we think about it from a physical development status, oftentimes when we hear the term adolescent, we think teenagers. But in education, what we're talking about is upper elementary, middle school, and high school. Those are our adolescent literacy learners. So they are working on more advanced reading and writing skills, right? And so in the early grades, our youngest literacy learners, they're learning how to read. But starting in fourth grade, there should be a shift if they've mastered those early literacy skills and they are now reading to learn across subject areas. So math, science, social studies, anything, any geometry, whatever it may be, they are then shifting and reading to learn versus learning to read. That means that they are engaging with more challenging and complex texts. They are expanding their vocabulary. They are thinking more critically about what they read and thinking more clearly in terms of how they write and express themselves. So we still need to support them as literacy learners during this stage because it impacts the rest of their academic career. So I really wanted to point out what an adolescent literacy learner is so that you understand when I say that this season of Teaching Tuesday, we have been focused on those adolescent literacy learners. That's what we're talking about. That's who we're talking about, those 4th through 12th grade students. Now, I will say this. Some of you may say, but wait a minute, what if my child is younger? Or what if my child is still learning to read, right? Well, I want to tell you that these segments, each week we're here for Teaching Tuesdays, they still apply to you as well. If your student is pre-K to 3rd grade or that adolescent literacy learner, you'll still see why these early literacy skills matter, right? You'll be able to connect the dots, right? When older students read more complex, challenging, longer words by breaking them into parts, it shows you just how important it is for younger students to practice their phonemes, right? Sounds, and then blending those sounds together, right? You'll be better prepared for what's next. So you need to know what's coming for those early literacy learners. So joining us here for Teaching Tuesdays, even as we focus on our adolescent literacy learners, it is really important for you. The bottom line is simply this. These lessons show where your child is headed and how to help them get there. What skills they need to master so that they become fully equipped adolescent literacy learners. So no matter your child's age, strong reading skills are built step by step. We talk about it all the time. And you, as their first and most important teachers, are a key ingredient, a key part, a key piece to the equation for them. All right. So I just wanted to point that out for those that may say, I have a younger child. This season on Teaching Tuesdays, you've been focused on adolescent literacy learners. How does that apply to me? So I really wanted to make sure to point that out and let you know so you can see what's coming. How do I prepare them? What prerequisite skills do they need before they get to this point in their literacy journey, right? We want to ensure that as they transition from learning to read to reading to learn, that they've mastered all of the prerequisite skills that they need so that they can continue on their literacy journey. All right, simply put, that's what we're talking about, okay? So again, tonight we are diving into spelling and orthographic mapping, helping our adolescent literacy learners become confident readers and writers. If you've been with me for any amount of time, what you are clear about is that reading and writing are not separate and independent of one another. No, they go hand in hand. A better reader, a better writer. A better writer, a better speller. It all goes together. And again, I've pointed this out on more than one occasion. You will understand as we go through tonight what I mean by that. So are you guys ready to dig in? I hope so. I want to encourage you to like and share this video. I want you to invite others to join you on Teaching Tuesdays. I want to let you know that you can screenshot, take notes, come back and watch the videos over and over again if you need to, so that you are sure, you are confident that you can support your children in becoming confident and competent readers. So I invite you to really engage, ask questions, challenge my thinking, push back. If something's not clear, if I'm not explaining something where you can actually go and implement it right away, drop it in the comments. Let me know, because I want to know how to better support you. In addition, I want to know your successes. If you go and try something with your children, your students, the kids that are in your life as you support them on their literacy journey, drop that information so that we can celebrate with you, right? If you're having challenges, difficulties, and you said, I need additional support, reach out. Let us know. We are a community and we are here to support one another as we support our children in becoming what? Y'all already know, confident and competent readers. All right, so we want to dive in and start this conversation by just explaining why spelling at this stage, remember we're talking fourth grade and above, why does this still matter? Now, I'm sure I know some adults who have said, I just have never been good at spelling. And what I will say is that it's probably because no one took the time to consistently, intentionally, explicitly teach spelling to you. The rules, the patterns of the English language, so that you could actually build the necessary neural pathways and store those spelling patterns in your long-term memory, right? And so it's not that you're not good at it. It's just someone probably did not devote the time. That's not what we want for our children. So let's bust this myth out right now, because it is a myth, not a fact, that spelling does still matter as our children get older, right? It's not something we do pre-K to third grade and then we stop. No, our adolescent literacy learners, fourth grade through 12th grade, it is still necessary that we be intentional about teaching spelling to them. And it is not just giving them a spelling list of words to memorize. Absolutely not. It goes beyond memorization. It helps build reading fluency, right? And word memory. It's a cognitive skill. Cognitive happens here. We're building neural pathways. It is not just about rote learning. So you remember, I probably will date myself when I say this, but many years ago, and perhaps even still, students would get a spelling list, and one of the tasks, they would maybe get it on a Friday or a Monday, and their test was going to be that Friday. One of the things that always teachers asked students to do was write your spelling words 10 times, 15 times. That's memorization. That's rote learning. What they didn't do is group the words by spelling patterns. That what they didn't do oftentimes is actually give them multi-sensory activities. They didn't often explain the prefixes, the suffixes, the word roots that those words were made from. They didn't go into detail about the sounds that were a part of or made up that word. And therefore, we were just operating from a place of memorization. That is not spelling instruction. Okay. So I want you all to be clear about that, right? Also, this is continued learning. Even adolescents, even our 4th through 12th graders need, and I've said it, explicit instruction to master advanced academic vocabulary. Remember, 4th through 12th grade, we're shifting from learning to read, reading to learn is where we are going. And so there is specialized vocabulary in each of our content areas. Again, science, math, social studies, etc. There is specialized vocabulary that they will be introduced to. The text that they read themselves, nonfiction and or fiction, will be building, continuing to build their background knowledge. But again, that academic vocabulary, the vocabulary that they will be exposed to in those texts, more advanced, longer words, different spelling patterns than they were exposed to in K through 3. All right. And good spelling is lifelong, right? Strong spelling correlates with better writing quality and reading comprehension. And we all know that meaning making comprehension is the ultimate goal to any literacy development that we do. That's where we're trying to get there. And if we don't master spelling, meaning, vocabulary, right, then we don't get to comprehension. It will be a gap. It will take us longer. It will take them longer. And so spelling does matter because it continues to expose our children to advanced vocabulary, more complex spelling patterns, etc. All right. So I just want you to know that it does still matter. I don't care if they're 8th grade, 12th grade, college, it still matters, right? So then you heard me say spelling and orthographic mapping is what we're talking about this evening. And so let me tell you what orthographic mapping is. Now, be clear that I use academic vocabulary, words that you may hear in a parent-teacher conference, in a meeting with a tutor or a reading interventionist or an IEP team. I use this language because I want you to go in and equipped. So when you hear it, you can access that information in your brain. You can advocate for your children. You can actively participate in the conversation about your child. Teachers often forget that you all have not, as parents, as caregivers, you haven't gone to school. You haven't taken a letters training class or science of reading or structured literacy course, right? But we use that terminology and we don't explain what it means. And parents are so nice that they will sit there and go, oh, yeah. Oftentimes feeling a bit intimidated by that professional or that group of professionals that are in the room, and you walk away not really understanding what was discussed about your child. And that is not what you need. That's not what I want for you. I want you to be a full partner and participant in the education of your children. So yes, I introduce this language, but then I define it and explain it in a way that you can walk away grasping what it means. And so when you hear it again, you understand what's being discussed about your children, right? So orthographic mapping is really how your child's brain takes a picture. Think about their brain through their eyes, right? This is the camera. So your children see a word, they take a picture of it, and they remember it. That's orthographic mapping. It's the process of linking a word's sound, spelling, and meaning to store it in long-term memory. That's what it is. It's a process by which, because our brains, when we're reading the written word, it is doing so much at one time, simultaneously, and we take it for granted because we don't remember oftentimes how we learn to read, and we don't understand or remember that we were building. I don't think anyone really explained it to us that we were building these neural pathways. Think of our brain in terms of literacy as a superhighway. And each part of the brain is doing something different to take what we see, the printed text, to make meaning from it. All of these things are happening. We see it, we take a picture. Then we look at it. Okay, do we see certain spelling patterns, syllable breakdowns, prefixes, suffixes, root words, right? How does it look? All of the things. And then have we been exposed to this before? What does the context say about it? And then we are able to link it. What's our background knowledge, right? And then we are able to make meaning. So orthographic mapping is nothing more than the process of your child, ours as well, brain taking a picture of a word and committing it to memory with all of its moving parts. That's what it is. And ultimately, through orthographic mapping, we store all of these words in our long-term memory, making most words in that sight words, right? So you hear the term high frequency words or sight words, and we think, oh, that's only this separate group of words. No, all words eventually become that through exposure, through linking the spelling patterns, the meaning, etc. So understand and know that that's what orthographic mapping means, okay? I hope that makes sense. I hope you all understand that, okay? All right, so the role of orthographic mapping and spelling, because remember we're talking about orthographic mapping and spelling. So what happens? What is this process? Well, when a reader sees a word, right? They have a book in their hand, they see a word, their brain does several things at the same time. Here's the sounds, i.e., identifying phonemes in the words, matching the sounds, the phonemes, to the graphemes, the symbols, i.e. letters, right? Then we're looking at that spelling pattern. Is that an AI? Is that an A consonant E? Is that an AY? Like for the long A sound, right? And then we store that information, long-term memory. We're building permanent memory representation. This process, as I said before, creates the neural pathways needed for students to become accurate and fluent readers and spellers. So fluent readers in that they can recall from that long-term memory, pull out that file cabinet and be able to decode when they're reading. And they can also access their long-term memory when they then want to use these words in their writing. Again, hand in hand, they go together. Reading and writing are not separate and distinct. They complement each other. They are interdependent upon one another. The better reader we become, the better speller. The better decoder we become, the better writer. Right? So I want you all to be clear and understand what we're talking about when we talk about the role of orthographic mapping and spelling. All right. All right. So let's keep it moving. So where does this all fit in the reading brain? Remember, I always give you all foundational information first, and then we get into like, okay, we understand this now. How do we teach this? How do we support our children in building those new neural pathways? What activities, practical activities can we do, right? So orthographic mapping sits right between hearing the sounds reading the word automatically. Okay? Think of it as the bridge that connects phonemic awareness and fluent reading. Now, when you look at Tolman's hourglass figure, right, we started here. Last season, when we focused on those early literacy skills, we were here, phonological awareness, right? Now we get down to orthography, orthographic mapping. We're down at the bottom of the hourglass figure. That's where we are, right? It's connecting the sounds to letters to meaning, right? And it makes our reading more automatic. Remember, and I should have put this in here, but I didn't. If you remember Scarborough's reading rope, which we have talked about numerous times, go back and look at some of our previous recordings, videos. We talk about as we master particular skills. Remember, we have the two strands of the reading rope. We have language comprehension, right? And oh Lord, I'm having a brain fart. The other strand. And then each strand is made up of multiple strands in and of themselves. One gets more strategic as we go, and one gets more automatic. So when we start talking about orthography, we're talking about that automatic reading of words, fluency, right? And so I want you all to be clear and to be sure you understand that we're working on our automaticity, meaning that we can pull those words very quickly from our long-term memory and decode them and keep it going. All right. So I hope that makes sense. So what do students need in order to map words well, to become more fluent, to work on their automaticity, and ultimately make meaning of the text that they're engaging with and become better spellers and writers? So these are those, if you've ever taken a college class, oftentimes they say this is the prerequisite. You can't take this class until you've done this. Well, the same thing in our literacy development. We are not able, ready to move forward in our literacy journey if we haven't mastered some skills. There are some skills that are prerequisite that need to be mastered before we move our children on the continuum. They won't have as much success if they haven't mastered these particular skills. So when I say master, when I talk about mastery, you may ask, well, what does that mean? How do I know my child has mastered a particular skill? I'm glad you asked. I'm going to explain it to you. Mastery very simply means that your child, your student can independently demonstrate understanding of a particular skill with 90% accuracy or more. So when we talk about what they need in order to be ready for orthographic mapping, phonemic awareness. Can they blend and segment individual sounds? Right? So I need them to be able to independently demonstrate their understanding or have the ability with 90% accuracy to blend and segment individual sounds and words. Letter sound knowledge. Can they independently demonstrate their understanding that there are certain letters that represent certain sounds? Right? Recognizing that OUGH can make different sounds, as in tough, through, or though. They've recognized this. They've been taught this. They've been able to practice this and therefore master. Have they mastered morphology? Meaning they understand the most commonly used prefixes, suffixes, and word roots. They can see that unhelpful, for example, has 3 distinct meaningful units. Meaningful word parts. Un, meaning not, help, and then full. And last but certainly not least, can they recognize syllable patterns? And this goes far beyond counting how many syllables a word has. Can they determine what type of syllables? Remember, we've reviewed the 6 different syllable types. And do they understand how to divide a word in its syllables? Is right. Knowing that open syllables end with long vowels, hotel, right? Ho, right? And that closed syllables, right, do not. They usually have a short vowel sound. They end with a consonant usually. So on and so forth. for each of the different syllable types or patterns. These are the requisite skills, the prerequisite skills, right, that students will need to have mastered before they get to orthographic mapping, working intentionally more on spelling as adolescent literacy learners. So I hope you all understand that, okay? Take notes. All right, so when we think about spelling, I want you to think about it as reading in reverse. That makes sense? Reading in reverse, right? You flip the script. I'm sorry. Again, remember I said the reading and writing are interdependent. They rely on each other. The stronger reader we become, the better writer we become, right? Spelling is really nothing more than reading in reverse. That's all it is. When a child spells a word, they break it into sounds and they map it to its letters. The same brain pathways are used for both reading and spelling, right? So I want you to be really, really clear that the same phonological and orthographic knowledge is needed and necessary. And improving one skill enhances the other. That's how they're connected. That's how they're interdependent upon one another. So we have to be intentional. We have to be explicit. We have to be consistent in teaching both spelling and reading, i.e. decoding. All right. So I want you to think about spelling as reading in reverse. That's what I want you to do. All right. So oftentimes our adolescent literacy learners, when it comes to spelling, they have some very common challenges that we see across the board most often. Not every single student, not saying that. But certain things show up for adolescent spellers on a pretty consistent basis. And that's how we then determine if they may have some gaps in their understanding. They may have not mastered some of those early literacy skills. And then we need to go back and do some reteaching, right? So one of the things that we notice for students that may be struggling with their spelling is that they are guessing. They're guessing. They're relying on how words look rather than analyzing the sounds. And this does certainly lead to persistent errors, right? So if they're just guessing about how it looks versus analyzing the sound, because remember in the English language, a lot of our words look alike, but that doesn't necessarily mean they sound alike. So we have to be analyzing the sounds. We have to be mapping our phonemes, sounds, to the graphemes. We have to be familiar with spelling patterns. We have to be familiar, right? Prefixes, suffixes, word roots, right? Also, students will often try to memorize whole words instead of understanding the patterns. And this is always going to fail with new vocabulary, unless they have some unique gift, talent, in terms of memory. But we generally can max out our memory very, very quickly. Our capacity to memorize is not as it doesn't have as much depth as we would think, right? And so we can't hold the English language in memory. We have to have some other skill set to assist us. And that does really lend itself to understanding, recognizing, studying spelling patterns. All right. Also, some of our students struggle because they have had limited exposure to systematic spelling patterns. Remember, I've talked to you all many times about this resource. I'm going to bring it up again, especially when it comes to the English language, because we have borrowed from everyone. But I want to show you this text. I've shown it to you before. The ABCs and all their tricks, the complete reference book of phonics and spelling. If you got the Bible in your house, this is the literacy Bible. Get it. Get it. All right. I love this. I refer to it a lot. As I tutor, support children, support families, right? Parents, please, 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 because so many of us have not had consistent, explicit, intentional teaching in this area, then we may not be familiar with all the rules that govern it. And it's okay that we don't. But as we support our children, our students, etc., then we have something, a reference that we can call upon to explain concepts that we just may not be clear about. Okay, it's very affordable. You can get it on Amazon or Barnes and Noble or a local bookstore. I am sure you will order it for you. Recommend that your local library get some copies of this so you can check it out and use it. Right? So I just want you to know that challenges that show up for our students generally, they're guessing, they run out of memory, right? They can't store everything in memory. They've had inconsistent instruction, and complex academic vocabulary requires sophisticated spelling strategies. The words get harder as our students get older. Unfortunately, what has happened is the instruction, instead of increasing with the complexity, it decreases as our children get older. And that's why they then struggle and have some challenges or some barriers in this area. So I want you to be really, really clear. And you can advocate. You can ask their language arts teachers, their ELA teachers, however they term it in your school or school district. Hey, I know that as our students become adolescent literacy learners, as they go fourth, fifth, grade up to high school, what have you, that the texts, both nonfiction and fiction, that they will be asked to read have more complex, complicated, sophisticated vocabulary. How are you all supporting them around spelling, around decoding as these texts get more complicated? Are you doing some explicit teaching, consistent teaching? How are you supporting them? It's okay to ask those questions. And then if you get an answer that doesn't satisfy you, when will you be doing this? How can I support you as a parent in doing this? Because I know it's needed and necessary. Okay? You're your child's first and most important teacher, and you're also their advocate. So show up for them. All right? All right, so anytime we're teaching spelling, we want to do that with orthographic mapping in mind, okay? So this is the fix. Like we talked about where they struggle. We talked about what all this means, why it's important, etc., how to advocate. So what's the fix? What's the fix? Teaching spelling. We want to make sure that we are focusing on sounds. We are connecting those sounds to letters or graphemes, right? We're linking it to meaning in context and in isolation, and we're practicing word patterns. That's what we should be doing all the time. That's how we build long-term success. Okay? That's what we want to do. So don't just, as teachers, as parents, we don't want to just give them this random list of words and say, okay, we need to expand our vocabulary. And if you're learning about this, you need to learn these words. No. That's not what we want to do. We want to teach patterns. We want to teach connections. And we want to ensure that we are building lasting word knowledge that transfers both to reading and writing. Okay? All right. So you say, okay, Katina, how do I do that? I'm glad you asked. I'm going to show you several activities you can do with your kiddos to facilitate this process. All right. So activity number 1 is phoneme, grapheme, mapping. Now you already know, if you've been with me any amount of time, phoneme means sound, grapheme means symbol. Sound, symbol, mapping is what we're talking about. So you want to draw some square boxes. I should have did this so I could show you an example. But you want to create one box for each sound in the target word. For example, we have one right here. You draw 4 boxes. Flight, right? Now, we know that flight is spelled F-L-I-G-H-T. 6 letters, but 4 sounds. Sounds do not always equate with how many letters are in a word. So I also want you to understand and know that. You might hear the term sound boxes. You may hear the term Elkanin boxes. Same thing, right? They create a visual representation of the phoneme, sound, grapheme, symbol, connection. Symbol or letter, right? So sound, letter, connection. You use it with real words from your child's homework, from a book they're reading, be it fiction and or nonfiction, right? So that's where you start. You pronounce the word slowly, identifying each sound. And what you can do is you can move, I say bingo chips. This is counter on here. So a bingo chip, a penny, a bean, a Skittle, an M&M, I don't care, something tangible into each box as you say the sound. Remember, I do, I model first. We do one together. Eventually, or some together, eventually you're going to hand it off and you're going to let them do that independently, right? And then, of course, you map the letters to sound. So eventually you go from, you have the boxes, you're moving the tangible items. Then eventually they're going to be writing. You want to write the letters that represent each sound in the boxes, right? So, I shows how multiple letters can represent one sound. Remember, 6 letters, 4 sounds. Yeah, that means we got to do some work too, right? We got to do some work too. But who's our friend? Go. Who's our friend? Our book right here. Who's our friend? Sometimes AI can help us as well. If you're not clear, you're not sure as a parent, your confidence isn't there yet, those are some additional tools as you do this type of activity to support you. You do the pre-work. You're already ready to go. So then when you sit down with them, you're displaying confidence. You know what you're talking about. You're ready to go. Okay? That's one activity. Another activity is morphology and syllable awareness. I talked about this the last 2 Teaching Tuesdays, right? So you're breaking longer, more complex word into meaningful parts. Their prefixes, their suffixes, their word roots, right? Color code each morpheme type. Color code our prefixes, color code our suffixes, color code our word roots. Then you want to map those syllables, right? Identify the syllable types and the division patterns. Go back and look at last week and the week before. We talked in detail about how to do this and how to teach it. You practice with multi-syllabic words from assignments, or I gave resources, lists, word lists by grade level in the last couple of episodes. So you can actually go and use those as some resources, right? You scan the QR code and you're able to access those resource lists. Understanding word structure. That's what morphology is, syllable awareness. Understanding that word structure dramatically improves spelling accuracy for longer academic vocabulary. All right. So I want you to make sure these are some more activities you can do with your kiddos around syllable awareness and morphology that directly impacts their spelling and orthographic mapping. Okay. Also, pattern-based word sorts. You can sort words in many different ways. You can do, let's sort A's with the long A sound. Well, we have AI words, we have AY words, we have A consonant E. Right? Okay, let's sort them by suffix. You've taught by this point, you've taught the most common suffixes, you've taught the most common prefixes. Let's sort them. Right? Silent letter patterns. Silent K. We know anything that's KN, we don't hear that K, we hear that N. Or that W, right? WR, we don't hear wh. But we hear right, wrong. Silent B, usually that toward the end of a word. Doubt, subtle. We don't hear that there, right? So we can do word sorts. You make it interactive with digital drag and drop. If y'all know anything about me, you know I love the website wordwall.net. Or old school, get you some index cards. Write those words on there, shuffle them all up just like you would do a deck of cards. Let's sort. And then we're going to be talking about those spelling patterns as we're doing the sorting. We're going to be talking about the meaning of the suffixes and the prefixes as we do the sorting. We're going to be talking about the many different ways or spelling patterns that go for a long A sound or a long E sound or a long I sound, right? As we do the sorting. We never just sorting quietly. No, we're talking, we're having conversation, and then we're actually going to say, now let's build some additional words that have this spelling pattern, right? So I just want you to understand these are some additional hands-on body kinesthetic, right? There is a mind-body connect, helps us commit things to memory, and we want this in our long-term memory, right? So this is why we do multi-sensory activities. That's another activity. Then the role reversal activity. Let your child become the teacher. Children love to tell us what to do, how to do, all the things, right? So they prepare a list of challenging words to quiz us on. As you spell, they then correct you and explain the patterns or the rules. This, if they can if you can teach something, if you can explain something, we know you got it. So this reinforces their own knowledge. We know that they're getting it from their short-term memory to their long-term memory if they're teaching it to us, if they're explaining it to us, or a younger sibling, right? Yes, yes. Or if you're in the classroom, give your children an opportunity to be teacher for the day. Come on, y'all. We ain't got to do all the work, right? So what's the benefits? You see them here. It builds their confidence. We know that with increased confidence, they want to practice more. They do more. It builds their competence. It increases engagement and motivation. Bring that little quiet child or that introverted child out a little bit more. Don't make them nervous. Don't overwhelm them, but give them an opportunity. It reinforces the knowledge through teaching. We just talked about that. It creates a positive learning dynamic. The fact that you trust them, that you're giving them the reins, that you're not the sage on the stage, but you're giving them an opportunity to shine, baby, it creates a culture and environment where they come out of their shell. They want to do best. It is positive. And it makes practice more enjoyable. I talk all the time about making learning fun and engaging. You don't want to be bored. They don't want to be bored. So give them opportunities to do something different than sit and get. No, they need to be engaging, interactive, right? So it taps into the learning by teaching effect, right? I said it before, explaining concepts to others is one of the most effective ways to solidify knowledge. If you don't believe me, test it out. Okay? I'm telling you, it works. So here's some at-home practice routines. 5 steps. Say the word. Count the sounds. Map the sounds to letters, right? Phoneme and grapheme. Write and check. Connected to meaning. That's how we're doing spelling. It should not just be sit down and write your words 5 times, 10 times, 15 times. Absolutely not. It is a 5-step routine. It takes just minutes, but I guarantee you it builds the critical neural pathways that puts these words, these spelling patterns in our long-term memory that we can pull upon when we're writing and or reading and decoding unfamiliar words. Okay, this is the way it should always go. Take a picture of this, write it down, come back to it, employ it. It is a strategy that we should be using with our kiddos. Okay. All right. So the power of repetition, saying the word, reading the word, saying the word, hearing the word, writing the word, using the word. That's the 5-step process we just talked about, right? See it in context several times. Instead of them just writing the word in isolation, think of 4 to 5 creative sentences using this word based on what you know the word means. That's the assignment. That is the best assignment, not just writing it in a list. No. Say the word. Are we pronouncing it correctly? That also matters because it helps us hear if they are getting the phoneme, grapheme correspondence correctly. Sometimes we can hear a word and we go, oh, that didn't sound right. We can look at a word that we've written. That doesn't look right. Because somewhere in our long-term memory, we've seen that word, we've used that word, we've written that word, we've engaged with that word, we know the spelling patterns. That's what causes that. It makes us go, I don't think so. And we have to check, right? Write the word in the sentences, in the paragraph, not in isolation, and use it in writing and in speaking. Multiple exposures build automaticity. Remember, we said the more we do this work, we should be getting more automatic. These words, these spelling patterns, it should be committed to our long-term memory. We are able to access them with automaticity. They become sight words to us. The brain needs repeated cycles of reading, spelling, and writing to create permanent word memories. It is not just rote memorization. No, we're creating permanent word memories. We're etching this in our long-term memory. Okay? That's the power of repetition. So I get when our teachers used to say, write the word 10 times or 15. This is where they were trying to go. But they missed the mark because they weren't, not all teachers weren't having us write them in sentences. We weren't reading those words aloud. We weren't hearing them read to us or said to us. And we weren't necessarily using them in context. All of that is required for us to create orthographic mapping in a way that moves this knowledge from our short-term memory to our long-term memory and gets us to automaticity. Okay? All right, so real life word practice. All right, use vocabulary from history, science, literature, etc. Academic words follow patterns too. They do. Practice correctly spelling commonly misspelled words from texts and posts. We want to, get kids off of tech. They're on it. Technology's here to stay. Let's not fight it. Let's use it wisely, right? So I see posts all the time where people talk about the misspelling of their, T-H-E-R-E, their, T-H-E-I-R, and their, T-H-E-Y apostrophe R-E. Wouldn't it be cool to have your child teach their friends about commonly misspelled words that they see on the internet or in text or in posts, right? Make digital communication accurate, but make it fun, make it engaging. How do we work with them with this technology versus this tug that we have trying to get them off? Now, you know what's best for your children. I would never, ever tell you how many minutes or how much they should be exposed to technology. What I will suggest is that we have to be creative and innovative in ways in which we engage with technology so that it is a help and not a hindrance. And then, of course, family conversations are always good. Interesting words from discussions, from movies, from games that they play, video games that they play, commercials, you name it. We are up, radio ads, billboards, right? Menus. You go into a particular type of restaurant, Mexican, Italian, whatever, Japanese, Chinese. Let's talk about these words that we're seeing. What do we notice, right? You can turn everyday conversations or exposure from everything that we do each and every day in our own lives into learning opportunities. And remember, this doesn't have to be long, doesn't have to be deep, deep, deep. It's just, hey, this is what I noticed. What did you notice? Right? So it actually makes the learning more relevant for our students. And that's what we need, our children. That's what they need. They need to know, why does it matter? Why am I doing this? Okay? So we want it to be relevant. We want to be still building their background knowledge. It increases their motivation and it makes meaningful connections to them. Adolescent literacy learners, not just teens, are more engaged when spelling practice feels authentic and useful. Football, soccer, right? What are they interested in terms of sports, in terms of art, in terms of music? How can we pull things from those things that they're interested in and infuse some learning from it, right? Now, remember, it doesn't take forever. And remember, I tell you, a good lesson, if you're doing it 3 to 5 days a week, 15 minutes minimum, 45 minutes maximum, you hit it and quit it while you're cooking, while you're doing laundry, while you're doing house cleaning, while you're riding in the car, while we're sitting at a restaurant waiting on our order. Let's talk to each other. Let's engage. Let's get a quick lesson in. Now you say, okay, Katina, I'm doing these activities. I know what all of this means. How do I know if it's working or not? You should see an increase in every area. Their spelling, their reading fluency, their confidence, their expanding vocabulary. Everything should be growing. Everything should be growing. That's how you know it's working. A teacher should probably come to you and go, wow, they're really improving. Oh, really? Well, thank you. Let me tell you what I've been doing, right? That's what you should say. All right. And then you say, and then how are you supporting this in the classroom? All right. So here's our key takeaways for tonight. Remember that orthographic mapping is how we permanently store words in memory, right? We want to move from short-term memory to long-term memory. We're creating a file cabinet in the brain that we can access anytime we need to for writing and or reading. Spelling strengthens reading, and reading strengthens spelling. The more we read, the better we become at decoding, the better spellers we become, the better writers we become. Both skills rely on the same neural pathways. Now, effective spelling instruction, it has to be explicit, it has to be consistent, it has to be intentional, but we address common sounds, spelling patterns, and meaning, okay? It should not be one-dimensional. It should not be write your words 5 times and that's it. Absolutely not. Parents, you can significantly impact the spelling development of your child, teachers of your students through intentional, consistent, explicit practice. This is 10 to 15 minutes daily. I should have put 15 minimum. But even if you did 10 to 15 minutes of daily practice, it does make a difference. We need to be intentional. We need to be consistent. We need to be explicit, right? When our adolescent literacy learners or any of our learners understand the logic behind spelling, they do become more confident readers and writers, right? So I want you to understand that what we're gunning for is lifelong literacy skills that are going to show up on their jobs, in college, in their businesses that they own, in accessing and understanding what's going on with their healthcare, reading contracts, leases, mortgages, right? Every area of their life, employment contracts, all of these things will be impacted by their ability to decode, assign meaning to words, literacy, right? So I want you to be clear about that. That's all I have for you all today. I'm so excited that we are just moving along in terms of our adolescent literacy learners. Again, be sure to like, share our videos, our channel. Invite others to join you on Teaching Tuesdays. We try to stay, between 45 minutes to an hour. And as I always say, as I sign off, which I'm going to say it again, you all know what I say if you've been with me any amount of time. Until next time, Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Let's get lit, y'all. Bye.
Welcome in, grab a seat, let's begin. It's Teaching Tuesday where the magic's within. Unlock the words, let the stories unfold. In a world of letters, watch the wonders take hold. Come on in, let's learn and grow. Build the future word by word, row by row. Together we'll read, together we'll rise. On Teaching Tuesdays, we'll open our eyes. Every sound, every line brings us closer to turning our learners into